the folks, happy continuing of Christmas. I hope that Christmas was really joyful and nice to you. Now the year look backs to the year in reviews from different kind of VC members starts coming in, or when they look back on their findings of the year, and it's time for me to do the same, of course, as I always do. 2022 haven't been the best of years, I might say that. I think 2021 was way stronger, especially when I for almost 2 months picked jazz records like this. 2022 have been real exception from summertime and around the time for the record fairs have been really slow actually, and I picked some here and there, but no, not that much gold mines and big stuff actually. So I, of course, one of the reasons for that is that people nowadays tend to sell their stuff on Discogs and eBay and so on, of course, and Tradera. But for instance, 80s, it's been an extremely low year for 80s, and much of that, of course, is because I have so much that I nowadays tend to find mostly stuff that I already have. It's hard to find stuff that I don't have. Looking at a comparison to jazz, for instance, that I found, it has been, as usual, a big year for jazz. I've been finding, of course, mostly jazz. There were different kind of recording. I mean, in the 80s, you recorded stuff for one record. You made a tour, and then you maybe you took a break for half a year, created a new record, released it, and in the jazz era, you released in the vintage jazz era, I should say, you released 45s. Quick as fast, you played nights at the clubs, and different musicians, of course, made tours, but it wasn't. It was more frequent releases, and people recorded from clubs and all kind of stuff and released it later on. So it's much easier to find much jazz on vinyl and CD than to find 80s lots of stuff that I don't have. It has been, I need to go back and check what I need when it comes to the 80s. I'm pretty sure there are a lot that I don't have, but I must know what it is first. 70s has been pretty okay. I've been finding little 70s here and there, but it has mostly been, of course, about jazz. That is the main reason for me showing a whole lot of jazz. Easiest to find what I need, with that I also have been doing a little bit of the statistics that this year will not do much of actually. I feel like it's taken a little way too much time maybe, and I just said that jazz has been the thing that I found the most. 70s pretty okay, 80s very poor, and the rest after that. And I'm also going to say that I will not include the CLTs and so on in this chart, much because that I've got them from various people, from of course from Shell in Norway, and also from Craig's Indie Disc. And I don't want to rank either one of them better than the other. Of course I have my favorite albums, but I think that I want to I want to have them as equal. And it was so amazing gifts that you made me, both of you. And Kjell, you had a really amazing 2021 when it comes to gifts, and you also had some really amazing 2022 as well. And I'm so shocked by your generosity, definitely. And in the disc you send me some really amazing stuff, and stuff that I had never heard of, and that I was happy to discover. So thank you, both of you, and I will show some pictures of some of the stuff that you have sent me later on. I have also been doing my regular top 10 of the best findings of the year, and as the year hasn't been that big and special, it was harder than ever to actually do this top 10 chart of best findings of the year. Let's start with number 10. And number 10 is as unusual as a spoken word record. I know a spoken word record, almost anyway, was pretty high last year with the Groucho Marx album. But this is, I think, the first time a theater album has been placed on the best finding of the year. I'm not a big fan of theaters, and I'm not a big fan of Swedish author August Strindberg. But when I saw this one, I felt like I gotta have it. This is a recording from 1958 of August Strindberg's theater, or should I say book made it to theater, Fröken Julie, Miss Julie. And it is a love story about a forbidden love between a rich girl and her butler, Sean. And it's all in the kitchen. So it is, but the interesting thing about this is that it's pretty old. And it is released in 2 disc sets. We have some really nice vinyls here, and it is a pretty rare oddity to find theater albums on vinyl like this. And I checked a little on Discogs, in a most likely better shape than this one. It is worth like $35 on Discogs. So very nice thing. Coming in at number 9, we have an album that I found that I also felt like this could be really special. I'm talking about a limited edition, as it says, of Morrissey's Ringleader of the Tournament from 2006. You can see here, limited edition, and it's the bonus things that you have, as it is a limited edition here, may be a little bit vague. You have a poster that more or less is the cover sleeve, and you have a bonus DVD that contains 2 exclusive behind-the-scene videos. But still, it is a very nice thing to have, as I do like Morrissey, as it is a very nice release. And Morrissey is a great musician and singer. Number 8, this is an album that I decided when I listened to it that this must be in the chart of finding of the year, because it was so amazing album. So this is a jazz album by big band leader Maynard Ferguson, along with singer Chris Connor, that I had no idea who it was. Released on Roulette, Tooth Company. Originally recorded in 1961. So released on vinyl in those times. Really great. I really like Chris Connor's voice, and Maynard Ferguson manages to do amazing arrangements, modern but still with a big step in the traditional big band era. It is a really amazing jazz album, one of the best big band albums I have found in quite some time. So definitely worth a place on this chart of the best findings of the year. Number 7, we have an album that is part of a movie. You could call it a soundtrack. It is music from a movie called I Want to Live, that I mentioned a lot of times before. Johnny Mandel did a fantastic original soundtrack with a big band that was really great, and definitely one of the best soundtracks I have heard. With that, I also found an EP for it. I also found an EP for this one, and I completed it by finally for $1 finding the entire album with the jazz combo, the smaller band from I Want to Live. I Want to Live is about a prostitute that gets innocently sentenced to death for something, a crime she didn't commit. And in one scene, this band is a band in an orchestra playing in the background, and to that they released an entire album with Art Farmer, Frank Rossellini, Bart Shanks, Jerry Mulligan, Red Mitchell, and so on. I wanted to get a hold of this album immediately as I found out that there were 2 soundtracks for this movie, Johnny Mandel and this one. So now I have this one also. The only thing that's missing is seeing the movie, I guess. But this is a really nice, relaxing, and amazing, cool jazz album in a really great quality. Also released on Affinity, a record label that may have one of the worst logos, but still, when it comes to releases of old jazz classics, they are starting to become one of my favorites actually. So number 7. Number 6, we come to an album that is nostalgia, that I'm not sure if I have shown this before, but it is part of 2022, so of course it had to be on the chart. This was an album that a school teacher recorded to me back in high school on cassette, and since then I wanted to get a hold of an original copy of the album, and I managed to find it. We're talking about Brazilian music with Herbie Mann, the flutist, and an album called Brazil Blues, an album with cassette copy I've listened to over and over again for many times. Finally I'm finding the record, and I do remember this back sleeve with the stripes and with the vaguely anyway, and with the chip of other stuff that United Artists Records had released with the jazz connection. So this is amazing Brazilian music, MPB, bossa nova, and definitely one of the best stuff that I have heard with Herbie Mann. So with that, we're going into top 5, but we're gonna take a break, not with some commercial, but with a little montage, little mix of other records that I found this year and that I've shown in my various vinyl and CD updates. Some other stuff that have been shown during this year, other records that were, you can say, close outside of top 10 of finding of the year, which I will return to right now with number 5. And we're coming to my favorite band and an album that I had in a horrible copy and then I managed to find for $5 in a nice better CD copy, Depeche Mode's Live Classic 101. Normally everywhere where I've seen this costs a lot of money, like $20, stuff like that. But I managed to find for $5 in this great CD version, which is of course part of a live movie that Depeche Mode did called 101. So really happy to have this one in a real version in my collection. Number 4, coming to one of the few ghost strikes that I made this year, when I found a whole great deal of jazz records on CDs during the late summer. And I managed to find a CD with a pianist that is totally forgotten today, and that I actually only heard of once in a Swedish radio show when back in the years when I started listening to jazz in the late 80s. And there in that radio show they mentioned and played some stuff with this pianist. And now I managed to find a CD finally with Dick Twardzik, an album that is called Complete Recordings, which it actually is because he only released 2 albums on his own and those two they have managed to get into one CD. And Dick Dvorak was another one of these tragic lives. He died only when he was around 23, 24 years old of a drug overdose, and on a tour with Chet Baker. And he was very, very close to Serge Sharoff, that was pretty high on the gear shot last year. He worked with a lot of the biggest names, including Charlie Parker, and unfortunately, the world did not have the chance to discover him for big because of this sudden death. So, but I'm happy to manage to find this because Dick Dvorak is a very underrated piano player. Little familiar style as Lenny Tristano, another one of my biggest favorites. So it's very nice to have this complete recordings. Number 3. Coming to an album that is a little special, a jazz album that is outside of the ordinary. This is from a radio show released on vinyl, and normally a radio show released on records is kind of a live concert. But this is actually a program with both mixing music and talking. Because this is Benny Berrigan All-Stars and a demonstration of swing. Of course, Benny Berrigan plays here with some really great names like Bud Freeman, Teddy Wilson, Joe Marsola, and so on. But the interesting thing here is also that it is containing Marshall Stearns and K.K. Hansen trying to describe what swing really is, what jazz really is, to an audience that may not be that familiar to it. Because in 1936, jazz was still seen as maybe not the best thing for majority. It's seen as a little simple. So here they try to take it down on the ground and describe what jazz and swing really is actually, and it is very fascinating to have this this radio show with a lesson in jazz released on vinyl with one of the best musicians playing examples. And originally it was meant to be Louis Armstrong playing, leading this all-star band, but he got ill, and they had to quickly phone in a replacement, and that became Benny Berrigan, and he's doing a really great work. So I'm very happy for Alamok Records to release this unique radio show and to have it in my collection. So, number 2, box sets. There's been a lot of box sets this year, at least more than I usually find. This is a very, very nice box set that I managed to find for only $1, but what it contains is amazing. Most likely, if I still would have worked at the store, I would have taken a little bit more. But I found a box set from Alan Parsons Project, and this album that contains 4 of their albums: I, Robot, Pyramid, Eve, and Eternal Friendly Card. Classics, all of them. I managed to find this album that contains these 4 albums for only $1, and it is a really, really great one. Here we have I, Robot. Really nice shape also. So it was natural that this one would be part of the best findings of the year. And place at number 2. And the pretty obvious number 1 is not maybe in as good shape as Alan Parsons' Project album, but I was really happy to find it. You might remember the spring record fair when I showed this the first time, how happy I was. And I had this one, or should I say part of this one, on a double album set. But now I managed to find the entire one of this. I'm talking about the Chicago at Cagney Hall box set. This is an amazing experience to listen to. I listened to the entire box set and it is really, really great. And I found it for only $2, this 4 album box set that contains, of course, albums in great shape, contains nice book sheet, and it also contains posters. So it is a really, really great copy to have found actually. And for a Chicago fan like me, it was really nice to replace the old, where I only had the part 3 and 4 on a double album set, replace that with a box set containing the entire live experience. An album that at its time was the record label, CBS, was a little bit doubtful, as they thought that 4 record set would be too heavy. And there are members of Chicago, like Peter Cetera, that think that this was actually a wrong move to release because it was too heavy. But other half of the old Chicago, like Robert Lamb and so on, think that it was a great release for the fans. And it really is. This is not something you buy if you're not a hardcore Chicago fan, but it is amazing to have. So this is my top finding of 2022. So that was my 2022. Now I'm a little bit split when it comes to how things would continue, because I'm in the middle of a culling, and with that it would of course be not that good if I just stormed in with whole bunch of new records and do my culling finish first. But on the other hand, I hope that the year 2023 will become better for my collection than 2022. That I will find a whole lot of more records than I have found in 2022, and also maybe some really amazing records that I really want to have. Not only those that great albums that I find for $1 and so on. But the year 2023 is of course an unwritten book so far. Now we can close the chapter, of course, and close the book for 2022 then. Okay year, but not the best year for my part when it comes to collecting, but it was still some great findings done. So with that, I'm going to wish each and every one of you a happy new year, and may you also have some really nice findings in the year to come. So with that, take care everybody, no matter what you do, no matter where you are, and so long.